skyscraper effect, also known as the skyscraper curse, skyscraper index, even curse of the Tower of Babel. These all refer to the idea of building something tall. The curse of the Tower of Babel references all the way back to the book of Genesis in the Bible, where people were scattered abroad and given different languages as a punishment for building a city or tower that reached to the heavens. So we have this idea that going back to the beginning of time, effectively, building tall buildings is going to be followed by some sort of tragic economic demise, where it started becoming called the skyscraper effect or the skyscraper curse. Came from Andrew Johnson, and basically what he's saying is that the more buildings, more skyscrapers, and higher the skyscrapers are, that this more both quantity and height of these, so effectively quality, that these are indicators of an upcoming economic downfall, recession. Now, there has been a history of this, and we can see it in quite a few different examples with different buildings. And just to be clear, skyscraper is defined at this time as a minimum of 40 stories. So a couple of things about skyscrapers is that they attract attention, they can boost tourist activity, and a lot of times too with as these happen and we have like the next area, it's, you know, the biggest, most exciting thing in that area, and so it can draw a lot of attention and publicity that can be beneficial to the economy, in addition to the work and sort of the investment that goes into the economy. So from the workers that have jobs to the financial investment, you know, the contracts that are being made. When you're building a new skyscraper, for example, if you're building in Eufaula, Oklahoma, and or any large building, that's going to really infuse a lot of finance and just kind of economic boost to the community because of, like I said, not just the workers, but also the impact that it has on local suppliers and contractors and people producing that. So that's a big factor with how these are being built. And then we've seen the downfall in, you know, everything from the Great Depression to just recession downturns. Now, basically that's saying like, hey, skyscrapers go up, more of them, and then we immediately see this downturn in the economy. The correlational finding for that is that it is a positive relationship, and it's a direct positive relationship, pretty strong. I wouldn't say, I don't have the data to, you know, plot it out exactly, but it's going to fall somewhere in that very strong, you know, around the positive 90. So it's definitely going to be a linear chart going left to right and bottom to top. Now, while it doesn't change that relationship, but that could be, it could be that the relationship is not so much a recession based on the fact that skyscrapers were built, as much as what it really is kind of following that natural cause and effect cycle, that economic downturn or economic bust follows economic boom. You know, can use the saying like, what goes up has to come down. We can only boom for so long, and it's also very common. What a lot of one argument that people have made is that the timing when skyscrapers, when that starts occurring, one, those are not jobs that happen very quickly. You know, they're going to take a few years from start to finish. You know, potentially as much as 5 years and even more from starting. So it becomes an idea, all these different buildings, you know, they become an idea, the economy is strong, it's strong enough to get financed for all this and for all these things to come together and make sense to do it. And then it happens. And by the time that it's complete, then the economy is just kind of in that rudder, like it's time, it's ready to start downturning. It's not so much because the skyscrapers were built, but just that the timing of when skyscrapers were built economically makes sense, that it happens when the economy is sort of in a bubbly position. So it's kind of like in this sort of primed for a bubble to burst, so to speak. Organizational framework. Toyota has a research presentations coming up for Toyota on the effectiveness of their efforts to restore public confidence after their product recalls, which involve the accelerator pedal malfunction and analog brake problems in their high-tech hybrid vehicles. So in preparing to give that presentation, before I even decided what my organizational framework is, I would look at what my structure is going to be as far as how is that going to be delivered and what is being requested and needed. And I would choose oral plus written as a presentation because I want my audience to have something in writing, one, to be able to kind of jot notes down, and then also to highlight the some of the main points. Also, in a business professional setting, I think that it's pretty rare anymore for an oral only presentation to be that effective. We have so many people doing other things while they're having a presentation. Even during scheduled meetings or with a boss, employees are commonly on their laptops and doing other things. So I think it's important to have that in writing. And I also think that just the opposite is true, that if you give it all in writing and you don't have that oral presentation and verbal communication, an opportunity for some discussion and also reading people's faces and their reactions, that you lose something there as well. So that's why I would look at both oral plus written, make sure and get all those data points that are so important and kind of make sure that the main thing does sink in. But at the same time, not a full technical report. It would also depend though on the audience, and that's where I really think the audience would have a big determination for me as to which organizational framework I would choose. Now, Schindler says cause, effect, solution is the best option. Our other options would be research brief, topical, narrative, classification, motivated sequence, problem solution, climax order, chronological, past, present, future, pros, cons, recommendations, or spatial. Where I disagree a little bit, or not even so much disagree, is question if I think cause, effect, solution is the best one. Cause, effect, and solution is going to describe the problem, describe the effect, and then describe the solution. So that makes absolutely perfect sense in the beginning when they are looking to restore public confidence. So you would look at the cause being what's happened with the vehicles and the fact that it has, this has been the problem with the vehicles. The problem was the malfunction and anti-lock braking problems. The effect is how it deteriorated customer confidence. Solution is doing an advertising campaign to restore public confidence. So in that case, I absolutely agree that your organizational framework, the best thing would be a cause, effect, and solution. I don't necessarily think that would be the best fit in a research presentation on the effectiveness of that advertising campaign. It could be, but I think it depends a little bit on what the research tells us, what the story is. All research is always, it's data points, and then the presentation is us telling a story. And so how do we tell that story? What makes the most sense? Well, you can tell a story a lot of ways. I can tell a really fun, exciting story to little kids that has all flowers flowers and sunshine and rainbows, and I can be really animated and make my voices change to go with that, because I know that story and I know my audience. Now, if I'm telling the same story to someone older, they're really not going to care about all the voices and this kind of stuff. I mean, they are a little bit, but not as much. And so I may need to do something different and change how I deliver that. At the same time, with little kids, if I'm telling a story about how someone barely escaped with their life through this really difficult circumstance, I'm not going to use the same level of verbal inflection and changing my voice and being these characters, because it's probably going to scare these little kids. And our audience in a research presentation really is not going to be that different. We need to know what our audience is, know what they're looking to gain out of this, who we're presenting to. You know, are we presenting to lower management, upper management? Are they looking to present this on up the chain? Are they looking for more simple information? And then also knowing the story. You know, if the results were pretty positive, I would more likely go with the past, present, future organizational structure, because the first section is going to discuss the past, so that's what our problem was. The second is going to cover the present, so that's where we're at now, and then the third is going to cover the future. And I think if the advertising campaign had been pretty positive, that's kind of the path I would take. If it had not been positive, then I would probably look more at the cause-effect solution, because I feel like you're still in that cycle of problem and how to correct it. Well, what the root problem is, what's happened with your customer base, and then how to solve it. You could make a case for chronological. I don't think that really would be applicable in this scenario, though, regardless of what your research tells you. And the other option that I might consider is problem solution, because I would be looking at, like, you know, less of the root problem, because you're kind of past that root, potentially, depending on what the research told us and the results of that advertising campaign. You could be kind of past that initial problem, and so you're more like problem solution as far as where you are and where to move forward, because that initial root cause is less relevant at this point if you have moved forward and successfully regained quite a bit of confidence. It doesn't matter as much what that root issue was, because if you move forward and you don't want to keep reminding your customers about the malfunctioning and the anti-lock braking problems and stuff, so you want to kind of shift gears. And in that case, I think a problem solution might be the best way to present that research, the research findings for that. But again, it's going to depend on what the story ends up being coming out of the research, and then who you're presenting it to, and what they're looking for as well. You know, are they just looking at, like, are they just ask a question as far as your part is, what's our current status, or are you part of the team giving recommendations? And in that case, definitely more past, present, future, cause, effect, solution would be appropriate.